Hi everyone, in Algebra 3 today we're going to be going over your questions on lesson 70. Starting on number 1, we have the number of squirrels vary linearly with the number of acorns available. So whenever we are asked to solve something that's varying linearly, we're going to have an equation of a line. And for this one, instead of y, we're going to have s and for squirrels, and then instead of x, we're going to have acorns. So it's going to be S equals MA plus B. Now, we're given two equations. It says there are 1,000 acorns available when there are 20 squirrels. So that would be 20 equals M times 1,000 plus B. And then it says when 3,000 acorns were available, there are 30 squirrels. So that would be 30 equals M times 3,000 plus B. So I need to solve for M and B. I am going to start by solving for M by multiplying the top equation by -1, which would give me -20 equals -1,000 M minus B. Bottom equation is going to stay the same at 30 equals 3,000 M plus B. Now the B's are going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with 10 is equal to 2,000 M. And then 10 divided by 2,000 would be 0.005. So now what I want to do is I want to solve for B, and I'm going to do that by plugging it into the top equation. So I have 20 equals 0.005 times 1,000 plus B. So I'm going to multiply that by 1,000, which is 5. I have to move it to the other side, which means that B is going to be equal to 15. Now my equation is going to be S squirrels equals 0.005 times the number of acorns plus 15. Now, how many squirrels were there when there are 6,000 acorns available? Just have to plug that into this equation. And then 6,000 plus 15. So I'm going to use my calculator. So I have 6,000 times 0.005 plus 15 gives us S is equal to 45. So we had 45. 45 squirrels. Now moving to number 2, Ivy can complete 5 jobs in 4 hours. When Mike helps her, they can complete 9 jobs in 6 hours. How long would it take Mike to complete 1 job? So we are using the R1T1 plus R2T2. So we have RITI plus RMTM equals jobs. The rate of Ivy is going to be 5/4. And it tells us that she is working for, it says they finished the 9 jobs in 6 hours, which means both of their times are going to be 6. We don't know the rate of Mike, but we know he works for 6 hours, and we know that they complete 9 jobs. This can be simplified. So we can get rid of the fraction by multiplying this whole equation by 2. And by doing that, we would end up with 15 plus 12 RM equals 18. And we're going to move this to the other side. So we have 12 RM equals 3. So which means RM is equal to 3/12, which is equal to 1/4. That means he can do 1 job in 4 hours. And it asks us how long would it take Mike to complete 1 job. well, the answer would be 4 hours. Okay, for number 3, we are going to have a boat in the river problem. So it says Dark Victory could travel 10 times the speed of the current. So the boat could go 10 times the speed of the current. Thus, the boat could travel 180 miles upstream in 2 hours less than it took to travel 264 miles downstream. So the distance up is 180. Distance down is 264. Then it says something about the time up. It says the upstream is 2 hours less than the downstream. So the time up was the time down minus 2. Now I have 2 formulas. I have my downstream equation, which is B plus W times TD equals DD. And then I'm going to plug in what I have. So I have 10W plus W times TD equals 264. 10W plus W would be 11W. TD equals 264. And if I divide both sides by 11, I get WTD is equal to 24. Now I go to my upstream equation, which is going to be B minus W times TU equals DU. So my B is going to be 10W minus W. My TU is going to be TD minus 2. And my DU is 180. So that's going to become 9W times TD minus 2 equals 180. Before I distribute the 9W, I'm actually going to divide this equation by 9 and then distribute just the W. So that would be WTD minus 2W equals 20. I can replace my WTD with 24. So that would be negative 2W equals negative 4, which means that W is going to be equal to 2. If I know that the speed of the current is 2, then I know the speed of the boat is 10 times that, which means the speed of the boat is equal to 20. Now moving on to number 4, we have J varies jointly as the square of H and as the cube root of A. So varies jointly means that we would have 4, so it would be J equals the square of H, so H squared, and the cubed root of A, and inversely as S. So this is our original equation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter the right side. So then I would have to, whatever I do to the right, I would have to do to the left. So it says H is going to be doubled. So I multiply H times 2. Then you're going to multiply A times 8. So the cubed root of 8A. And that's going to be over 4S. Okay, when I square the 2, that would become 4h squared. When I take the cubed root of 8, that would become 2 times the cubed root of A. That's going to be over 4. Now, those 4's on top and bottom are going to cancel, but I would be left with 2 times, and then it would be h squared, the cubed root of A over S. Now this equation here, this part of it should look exactly the same as that, the original. The only thing that's different is that I'm multiplying it by 2. So if I multiply this right-hand side by 2, I have to multiply the j by 2. So it says what happens to j? When all of that happens, you have to multiply j by 2. And that's your answer. So it's all about simplification. Then whatever you ended up doing to the right, you end up doing to the left as well. Now for number 5, how many distinguishable permutations can be made from the letters in the word Lilliputian? So there are, in number 5, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11 letters. So total would be 11. Then we're going to go for our multiples. So how many L's are there? There's 1, 2, 3. How many I's are there? 3. There's no other P's, no U's, no A's or N's. So our equation is going to be 11 factorial over 3 factorial, 3 factorial. So I'm not going to multiply this out by hand, but it's 11 factorial over 3 times 2 times 1 times 3 times 2 times 1. But 3 times 2 is 6, times 3 times 2 is 6, so that would be 36. So it's really just 11 factorial divided by 36. And your answer is going to be 1108800. So 1,108,000 or 108,800. Now we're going to look at number 6. It says Gulliver found that the heights of the Lilliputians were normally distributed with a mean of 5 inches and a standard deviation of ½ inch. What percentage of the Lilliputians were between 4 inches and 5½ inches in height? So for number 6, I'm going to draw out a normal distribution where the mean is 5, and we want to find the percentage between 4 and 5½ So now there's 3 percentages that you know 68%, and then we know 95%, and then we know 99%. So for the 68%, we do the mean plus or minus 1 times the standard deviation. So the mean is 5, and the standard deviation is 1/2. So if I do the mean minus 1/2, I would end up with 4.5. And if I do the mean plus 1/2, I would get 5.5 or 5½ So that means that if I draw a line here at 4.5, that 68% of the data is going to fall between these two values. But I only want to know the percentage between 5 and 5½ which means that that would be half of this. So this percentage over here is going to be 34%. So just from 5 to 5½ Now, if I do 95%, it's going to be the mean plus or minus 2 times the standard deviation. So that would be 5 plus or minus 2 times 1/2, which ends up being 5 plus or minus 1. And that range would be 4 to 6. So the percentage from 4 to 6 is 95%. but I only want to know the percentage from 5 to 4, so only half of that. So see how that would be half. So half of this would be, I think it's 47.5. Yeah, and we're going to just add that to our 34%, and our total percent would be 81.5%. So this one you have to use your 3 percentages that you should have memorized. So 68, 95, and then the last one would have been 99. Now looking at number 7, this one's different. We're going to use our chart, our standard normal table. So this one says the scores of a test are normally distributed with a mean of 75 and a standard deviation 8. What percent of the test scores are less than 87? So this one we're given a normal distribution again like this. We know that the mean is 75, but we want to know the percentage that falls below 87. So all of this percent right here. And we're going to calculate that using the z-score. And that's always x minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So in our case, our x is going to be the 87. Our mean is 75, and our standard deviation is going to be 8. So in our calculator, 87 minus 75, and then divide that by 8, you get 1.5. So now what we need to do is we need to go to our standard normal table, which is here. We're going to go down to +1, then over to 0.5, and that percentage is going to be 93.32%. 93.32%. So the standard normal table always gives us a decimal number. You just need to multiply that by 100 to get the percentage. Now looking at number 8, when you are asked to evaluate a matrix, you're going to start in the top left and multiply by bottom right. So this would be 5 times 2. Then you subtract top right times bottom left, which would be 1 times 7. So really we just have 10 minus 7 equals 3. That's all you have to do for evaluating a matrix. Looking at number 9 is a little bit different. We just have to solve for x on this one. So again, start in the top left and multiply by bottom right. It's number 9. So it'd be x plus 1 times x minus 2 minus 4 times 1 equals 0. When I multiply this out, I'm going to get x squared minus x minus 2 minus 4 equals 0. Which gives us x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Two numbers to multiply to give us -6, but add up to give you -1 would be x minus 3 times x plus 2, which means that our result for x is going to be 3 and -2. Remember, to solve, you would just set each of those equal to 0. Okay, now looking at number 21, we have to do secant squared of 5 pi over 4 and then 7 pi over 4. So I'm going to draw the snowflake chart for both of those for number 21. So it should have 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting at 0. I'm going to count, so this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 45-degree triangle in quadrant 3. So it'd be -1, -1 root 2. Then for 7 pi, this would be 5, so this would be 6, and then this would be 7. That's a 45-degree triangle in quadrant 4. So that'd be +1, -1 root 2. Now evaluating. So secant is the ratio of hypotenuse over adjacent. So this would be hypotenuse over adjacent would be negative root 2, but then you have to square that, minus the cosine, which would be 1 over root 2, but we would have to square that as well. Negative root 2 squared would just be 2. 1 over root 2 squared would be just 1/2. So really we would end up with 3 over 2 as our result. Because 2 minus 1/2 would be 4 over 2, and then minus 1/2. Now to number 22. We are going to find the mean, the median, the mode, the variance, and the standard deviation. We're going to use our calculators for this. I'm going to start by just calculating what the median is and the mode. So the median for number 22 is the middle number. So I count in, so 1, 2, and then it's between 3 and 4. So what's between 3 and 4 would be 3.5. The mode is the number that shows up the most. So in this case, that number is just 1. Then we get to all of our calculator pieces. So it's going to be the mean, the standard deviation, and then the variance. So the first thing that we have to do is I'm going to clear my calculator. So second 7. Now I'm going to input my variables. So I'm going to do 1, 1, 3, 4, 7, 8. So after every time I press this button right here, which is right below the pi symbol, and then it should say n is equal to 6 because I have 6 variables. To do the mean, you use second x squared. So the mean is going to be 4. The standard deviation is going to be second divide. So that'd be 2.71. And the variance, all you have to do is square whatever you got for the standard deviation. So that would be 7.33. And that's all you have to do for those problems. It's mostly done in your head and using your calculator. Now moving on to number 23. What we need to do is we have to graph this first. So for the x squared plus y squared is greater than 4. That one's going to be a circle centered around 0, 0 with a radius of 2. And then for this next one, y is greater than or equal to 2. So really what this is x minus 0 squared plus 0. So again, it's centered at 0, 0. But what I have to do is on my XY chart, when it's normally 1, 1, 2, 4, I have to multiply this middle row or this Y row by 2. So if I multiply by 2, I would have 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. So I'm going to try and graph this, but I'm not going to go up to 8. So this one's a circle centered around 0, 0 with the radius of 2. So I just have to go 2 in every direction. And then I have to graph that. Now my parabola is also going to be focused at 0, 0. But instead of going over 1, up 1, I have to go over 1, up 2. And this will be my parabola. So now comes the shading portion. We're going to start by shading. So this one is x squared plus y squared is greater than the radius, which means that would be everything outside the radius. That means that we would shade everything outside of the circle. So it should look like that. Then it says y is greater than the parabola. So all the y values greater than the parabola would be everything inside. So your answer would just be this shaded portion that's covered by both. So inside the parabola, but outside the circle. Now looking at number 24, says find the area in square feet of the segment bounded by an arc of 60 degrees and the chord which joins the end point of the arc in a circle whose radius is 8 inches. So I'm going to start by just converting that from inches to feet. So I have, for number 24, my radius is 8 inches, but I want to convert it to feet. So that would be 1 foot and then 12 inches. So then 8 divided by 12 would, oh great, that does not come out evenly. So it'd be 0.667. I'm just going to use 0.667 feet. That's going to make our conversion a little bit harder, but the area of the segment follows this equation: x over 360 times pi r squared minus r times r sine of x divided by 2. So our x is the degrees, which would be 60, so 60 over 360 times pi times 0.667 squared minus 0.667 times 0.667 sine of 60 divided by 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square, so 0.667 squared times pi times 60 divided by 360 would give me, I'm going to go to 4 decimal places, so 0.2329 minus, and then it's going to be 0.667 times 0.667 times 60 sine divided by 2 gives us 0.1926, and I'm going to subtract that from 0.2329, and I would get a result of 0.04, and that would be feet squared. So it's the area. Now looking at number 25. So for number 25, we're going to need a little bit more space because we're writing the quadratic equation with a lead coefficient of 1 whose roots are. This goes into the equation x minus root times x minus root is equal to 0. So when you plug in your roots, make sure you change the sign. So this would become x minus 2 root 3 plus 2i times x minus 2 root 3 minus 2i. And then I would multiply this out. So I do x times x would give me x squared. X times negative 2 root 3 would be negative 2 root 3x. X times negative 2i would be negative 2ix. Negative 2 root 3 times x would be negative 2 root 3x. Negative 2 root 3 times negative 2 root 3 would be positive 4 times 3, because 2 times 2 is 4, root 3 times root 3 is 3. Then negative 2 root 3 times negative 2 would be positive 4 root 3i. Last term, 2i times x would be positive 2ix. 2i times negative 2 root 3 would be negative 4 root 3i. And then 2i times negative 2i would be negative 4. I squared, which is negative 1. So the things that can cancel on this are going to be my negative 2ix and the 2ix, the 4 root 3i and the 4 root 3i. I can add the 12 and the 4. I can also add these 2 root 3's. So my answer is going to be x squared minus 4 root 3x, and then 12 plus 4 is going to be 16. Okay, Now for number 26, another one where we're going to need a lot of space. We're going to start by solving our equation for 3x minus 4y minus 2, solving it for y, because we need to know the distance between a point and a line. So it'd be negative 4y equals negative 3x plus 2. When you divide everything by negative 4, you're going to get 3 over 4x minus 1 over 2. So that's going to be our line, our original line. Our step 1 is to find the perpendicular to that line that goes through the point 5, 2. So I would take the negative reciprocal of the original slope. Now I'm going to plug in my points. So it's 2 equals negative 4 over 3 times 5 plus b. Make a common denominator, so that's going to be 6 over 3 plus 20 over 3 equals b. So b is going to be equal to 26 over 3. So now my equation is going to be y equals negative 4/3 x plus 26 over 3. I want to find out where this line and my original line intersect. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I have 3/4 x minus 1/2 equals negative 4/3 x plus 26 over 3. To get rid of the denominators, I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 12. That means I would end up multiplying that 3 by 3, which would be 9x. This by 6, so minus 6. This by 4, so that would be negative 16x. That by 4, so 26 times 4 would be 104. So bring the 16x to the left would be 25x equals 110. And then 110 divided by x would be 4.4. Normally we don't use a decimal point. And so I'd probably do 22 over 5. Yeah. Now to solve for y, I'm going to plug in this into one of the equations. So let's plug it into the original. So that would be y equals 3 over 4 times 22 over 5 minus 1/2. So this would be 2 and 11. Common denominator would be 10. So that would be 33 over 10 minus 5 over 10. Which means y is going to be equal to 28 over 10 or 14 over 5. Unfortunately, you're not done with this problem yet because we still have to find the distance between the point and the line. So now we have to plug this into the distance formula, which is super tedious. So it's going to be x1, which is 5, minus x2, which is 22 over 5 squared, plus y1, which is 2, minus y2, which is 14 over 5 squared. Okay, so I'm going to move everything up so you can see it a little better. Common denominator, common denominator. 25 minus 22 would be 3 over 5 squared. 10 minus 14 would be negative 4 over 5 squared. So that would be 9 over 25 plus 16 over 25. Oh, wow, look at that. 9 plus 16 is 25. 25 over 25 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. So all of this work here boils down to the answer just being 1. Okay, now moving on to number 27. So I'm trying to find the area of a triangle. I'm going to just redraw this right here. So the angle is 70 degrees. We have to find the height, where the slant is 5, base is 6. Okay, so it looks like that. I'm going to use sine because opposite of 70 degrees is the height and the hypotenuse is 5. So we would use sine of 70 equals opposite over hypotenuse, which means that the height would be equal to 5 times 70 sine equals, so the height would be equal to 4.698. Now we have to find the area of the triangle, which would be 1/2 base times height. Base is 6, height is 4.698. I'm just leaving it in my calculator though. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so you're really just multiplying this height. Oops. No, sorry, I have to redo that. So 5 times 70 sine equals, and then I'm going to multiply that by 3. That gives me an area of 14.1 inches squared. Okay, now looking at number 28. If there's a number outside my logarithm, it is going to become the exponent of the number. So the 3/4 is going to become the power of 625. The 2 is going to become the exponent of the x. So for number 28, I would have the log base 7 is 625 to the 3/4 plus log 7x squared equals 2. Because of this, well, first of all, I'm going to figure out what 625 to the 3/4. So 625 to the power of 0.75 would be 125. So I have log 7 of 125 plus log 7x squared equals 2. To combine these, I'm going to multiply the two numbers together. So this would be log 7 of 125x squared equals 2. So how do I get rid of the log 7? I raise it to the power of 7, both sides. So that would be 7 to the log 7, and the right side would become 7 squared. On the left, I would have 125x squared is equal to 7 squared, which is 49. Then divide both sides by 125. And then I would have to take the square root of the top and the bottom, which is not going to be nice for me, because that would be 7 over square root of 125 would be 5√5. But we can't leave the square root of 5 in the denominator. So your answer would end up being 7√5 over 25. So don't forget to get rid of the square root that was in the denominator on that one. Now for number 29, when there's numbers in your exponent, we follow the same logarithm rules. So we're going to do the addition first. So you see the plus sign, so I'm going to multiply those two values. So that would be log 2 of 3 times 5 minus log 2 of 7 minus log 5 of 5. And this would be to the power of 1 because there's no exponent. Now, because of the minus sign, we're going to divide. So that would be 2 to the log 2 of 15 divided by 7 minus log 5 to the 1. Now my 2 and my log 2 and my log 5 and my 5 cancel. So really I have 15 over 7 minus 1. So my answer is going to be 8/7. Now, lastly, number 30 was kind of tricky. It says, which of the following graphs most resembles the graph of? What I'm going to do is, this is basically y is equal to the square root of 1 minus x squared. Well, what happens when I square both sides? I would have y squared is equal to 1 minus x squared. Now, if I move the x squared to the other side, I would get x squared plus y squared is equal to 1. So this right here should be a circle centered around 1, 1, or 0, 0, with a radius of 1. But when we take the square root of that, we are actually only finding half of that, and we're finding the positive half of that. So that means that we are only finding this top half, which means that your result is going to be D. And that should conclude your questions on lesson 70. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Bye.